but it will be added to the board's agenda under pending business to determine whether or not the board wishes to take any action tonight.
Okay. And you, in our packet is the hearing officer's findings from November 29th, 2021. Would anybody at this time like to address the board regarding this condemnation?
Good evening. My name is Larry Trigger. I'm the attorney for David Franks, who's the property owner of the site in question. I have a few brief comments I'd like to make for your consideration in determining what to do next with regard to this property. Brief history, I think, is important here. In September of 2019, right near Mr. Frank's 60th birthday, he had a serious medical problem which kept him in the ICU for nearly 2 weeks. When he was released from the hospital, ultimately he was not able to live on his own. He was with a friend who was his caregiver, and he was significantly debilitated. He's an electrician by trade, and he was able to return part-time to work, but full-time was quite a ways off for him. As he got through that part of his life, he then was in a position to start to fix and repair some of the issues with this house. That's when the pandemic hit all of us. And ultimately, he tried numerous different resources to find contractors, find materials, find people that would help him repair his house. It had been vacant since he was ill. It had fallen into, we acknowledge, a significant state of disrepair. He was unable to obtain anyone other than a roofing contractor who came out and replaced the most serious issue with regard to the roof on the first story of the home. That was done shortly after we had our hearing in November with the hearing officer. At that time, we shared some information, and ultimately, Mr. Franks was given 90 days to bring the home into compliance or demolish it. That 90 days encompassed more pandemic chaos, the holidays, same problems with regard to obtaining workmen and materials. And when we came to the end of that period of time, he had not complied with the order to the extent he had brought that house fully into compliance. He did some significant things, though. He made some significant progress. He had repaired the roof issue, and I believe we gave documentation of that to the Township Attorney's Office after that work was done. He has spent a significant amount of time with an individual who agreed to help him to just clean out the house. It had been littered with debris over the course of being vacant, and he's done a significant amount of cleanup in there. His garage door was an issue with the township. It was not meeting snugly against the frame of the garage door on both sides. He has repaired that, and I believe photographs were forwarded to the Township Attorney's Office this morning, which reflect that work that he has performed. There was an electrical meter installed, which the Township Building Inspector had noted in his, I think, second to last visit to the home. Mr. Franks has pulled a permit for that, and it will be inspected, and it will be in full compliance with all requirements. There was a padlock on his gas meter. That has been removed, although he doesn't have gas initiated in the home because he frankly doesn't need it right now. It's been totally winterized. It is ready to go as soon as he asks the utility company to come and initiate service. The most significant structural issue at the hearing and in discussing this matter with your building enforcement people was an addition that was put on the back of this house. And that addition actually existed at the time 30 years ago when Mr. Franks and his wife bought this home. Apparently, he has subsequently learned that it was built without permits, without inspections, and probably didn't comply with code from the outset. Well, that portion of the home, that one-story addition, had fallen into probably the most significant disrepair. And it was the concern of the building official in terms of a risk that the building would, quote-unquote, collapse. Mr. Franks has removed the roof from that section. He has partially demolished one of the walls. It is his intent, and we indicated this at the hearing in November, to simply remove that, and then it will leave exposed material, which would then become the exterior wall of the house, and that needs to be covered with siding which will be done in conjunction with other siding and trim work that is also needed for the home. So at this point, I think that he has eliminated any risk of any type of collapse, which was one of the criteria that the township building inspector had relied upon. He has a siding contractor, which he has contacted, and it's the same person that did the roof. And this is an example of how difficult it can be in our time right now, is that they couldn't schedule, they didn't have crew. Now he has a couple people that he thinks can come and address the siding issues and handle the trim and to re-side the exposed areas and to finish that area where he's removing that single-story addition. In the middle of all this, Mr. Franks fell behind in his taxes. He has paid those. I have a copy of the bill and a check here. It's been sent to the county treasurer's office to catch his taxes up for this home. I would like this Board of Trustees to recognize that this isn't a usual or typical situation. If I was here standing in front of you, speaking on behalf of someone who had simply blatantly disregarded the directives from the township, health and safety issues, things of that nature, I think it would be a different story entirely. But what I have here is a gentleman who's been a property owner here for 30 years, who dealt with significant health issues, and then dealt with the inability to get people to come out to do a job during the pandemic. And he's a one-only homeowner. I have clients that I represent who are contractors who can't get a plumber to call them back when they have multiple projects going on. It's just been that challenging of a time for him. And I would just ask you to recognize that as you analyze what your options are with regard to this structure. His hope is that you find a way to give him a reasonable amount of time within which he would continue to document significant progress for the repair and fixing up this home, and that he would be given an opportunity to preserve the home and preserve his equity in it. I talked to him realistically about this, and now that we're through the bad weather, which was also part of his 90 days, he thinks within 120 days he could have this home fixed up. So it's not an eyesore to the neighbors, it's not a danger to anyone, and then he can recoup his equity and the residential setting that he's enjoyed for over 30 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Trigger. Anyone else want to address the board at this public hearing? Okay, we do have this on our agenda for, we will be adding this, to our pending business, where we can also speak with our building official and hear other comments from board members. But at this time, 7:16, we will declare that public hearing was held. And we will, again, please stand by because we will be adding this to our agenda for pending business for discussion amongst our board. All right, that moves us on to approval of our bills. Page, I'll put them up, 24. I try to keep stuff on the screen, but if you want to watch, if you go on our website, you can see everything and scroll through at your own leisure. Go ahead, Ms. Steele.
Thank you. Got mine. Okay. I would just like to make a motion to pay the bills in the total amount of $2,137,276.68 with a couple comments.
Support. Okay, go ahead with your comments.
Our biggest bill for this bill run is our new fire truck, in which we have paid in advance for 2023 of $604,788. We did have our sewage bill for the month, which was $292,230. We did a project along Silver Bell from Superior Excavating for our sewer lines for $291,000, and we did have a big water bill this month of $281,648. I think the fun ones on this bill, if you want to say a fun bill, is we did start the ground testing for our tennis courts and and we also did some engineering for our expansion of the beach at Camp Agawam, and tree removal at Scripps Road for our new to improve the road on Scripps Road leading into this building. So that's my bill report.
Any comments or questions from board members? Okay. Clerk Schultz, would you please call the roll?
Flood?
Yes.
Urbanowski?
Yes.
Barnett?
Yes.
Schultz, yes. Steele?
Yes.
Ernie?
Yes.
Dalrymple?
Yes.
Okay, the bills are paid. Takes us to public comment on non-agenda items. So if you're here about something that is on our agenda, we'll give you a chance when we get there. But if you're here about anything else, please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and ask you to keep your comments to about 3 minutes. Anyone want to give public comment tonight? Seeing no one rush forward, we'll close that and bring it back up here. Before we approve the agenda, though, and we like to always share some good news at the beginning of meetings, I wanted to share a couple quick things that happened in the last week that we're really excited about. First, we had one of our firefighters, Justin Diener, pass his paramedic national registry exam, and he's now a state licensed paramedic. So congratulations to Justin. Exciting news there. We're all moving toward that paramedic fully ALS. We are ALS, but the more the merrier, right, Chief? American Public Works, so we had some really good news, two awards in the last week on our Baldwin Road project, which seemed like it was never going to end during it, but we received the American Public Works Association 2021 Project of the Year for $25 to $75 million project, and we won that award with the Road Commission and with the Road Commission, with Dan's Excavating and OHM Advisors, which is really cool. And then the American Council of Engineering Companies, the second highest award of the year. This is the former supervisor of Chesterfield, Dan Yankovetti. The reason that we're together is because they won the big one and we got second place. But we were at an event for all the projects in the entire state of Michigan. We won the second highest recognition, which was really awesome. And the cool news is our friends at OHM got first and second place for their projects. They worked on that Chesterfield project, but in the center of that picture is Dennis Kohler, the director of the Road Commission, and the far right is Gary Petrovich, the deputy director, and then that's John Caters that's standing next to me. But it's pretty awesome for our Baldwin Road project, and we're the only roundabout with a fountain in the middle of it, for sure in the entire state of Michigan, but I think we still can say the entire eastern half of the U.S. I think there's one in California someplace. So, and then last thing, I'll just say that the State of the County address, the very first 5 minutes of the speech were about the great news happening in Orion Township at GM. That's our county executive, Dave Coulter, and the gentlemen that were sitting right in front of me are pictured here. Those are all the people that make the GM Orion plant work, and County Exec Coulter drove in that electric vehicle right into his presentation. That's how he came in from straight out of Orion. And this is my good friend Ruben, who's the plant manager, and that's our favorite thing that we like to point out, those made in Orion on the inside driver's side door of your vehicle. That's the #1 quality check. If it has a made in Orion sticker, it's a good vehicle. So Ruben is the plant manager. The furthest north he's ever lived before he lives here in Metro Detroit was Oklahoma. So he's still not quite understanding why our roads are all so bad. He most recently came from Texas, but more on the roads later. But I like to share some good news at the beginning, and that's the good news. And now we will look for a motion to approve tonight's agenda with a few additions, I think. Go ahead, Clerk Schultz.
We have a bunch. We have added a 2021 ARPA allocations. That will be 8K. Also added is the spring root control, which is 8L. We've added under, we're moving 8G to pending, and that's a solicitation request, Seventh-day Adventist. And I'd like to rearrange the schedule just a little bit, if I may take that liberty.
Yep.
Under the pending, I would like the following. The condemnation will be 9A. We have the applicant here, and we want to hear from them. Also, 9B will be the second reading. We do have people here to speak upon that. And then finally, 9C, which will be the solicitation request.
Okay. Any other changes or motion to approve as amended?
Move to approve the agenda as amended.
Support.
All right, it's been moved by Flood and supported by Mr. Burney. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, we have an agenda. This next item, we will be voting on all these items at one time. Our consent agenda for tonight. So the consent agenda tonight consists of the following items. We'll be approving minutes from our meeting on March 7th, awarding a bid for the demo and park construction at 2525 Joslin, our former Township Hall facility, requesting to waive the fees for the Pollyant Trail, bond sale and purchase, approving our participation in the 2022 chloride program for our dirt roads, revised fee structure for the fire alarm, fire suppression permits. We'll be hiring 2 people, a parks maintenance worker and a safety pass and trails maintenance worker. We'll be approving the 2021 ARPA allocation as was just added, and we'll be approving participation in the root control program. That's the roots that get into our sewer lines for the Department of Public Services. That's tonight's consent agenda. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Support.
Okay, moved by Flood and again supported by Bernie. Any comments or questions from board members? Go ahead.
I'm just curious on when the building might actually come down. I think everybody will be anxious to see that come down and turn it back into parkland.
Yeah, so there was a meeting last week with Cunningham Limp and the bidders. We follow the typical bid process per our purchasing policy. So they qualified the bidders, and there was discussion on schedule. Sam, we think it's gonna be in about 4 to 6 weeks for the demo?
Yes, the demo's looking like it's going to take place during May.
So that is,
Yeah, in May, it would be demolished and then returned to park grass space. There'll be a berm added by Jocelyn Row, because I think you have plans volleyball courts, so.
Aaron, do you want to add anything?
I was going to say it was being demoed right now while everybody's in here, but, yeah, our plans are, once it's restored back to parkland, add 2 volleyball courts and an open space for future ice skating rink, so it'll be a nice addition to the township.
There you go, and there's a picture of that, future fields, and there's gonna be a berm along Joslin Road. It'll be cleaned up real nice. You have another question?
Nope, that was it. Thank you.
Okay, and there is a schedule. Once we award the bids, we'll update the board on the timing of this, of that. And even invite everyone out for the big knockdown if anybody's really interested, like me. All right. Any other comments or questions on the consent agenda? I have a couple, unless there's anyone else that wants to go first. I will just say that tonight, we've been doing this kind of the last few years as tradition that when we have new employees, if they're able to join us, we invite them and they do join us. We're joined tonight by Trevor and Forrest, who are here, and they both just raised their hand that we will be hiring these 2 gentlemen, assuming this vote goes through, and then we won't put them on the spot yet, but we'll go through that and then we'll see. All right, is there any other comments or questions from board members? Public comment on any of these items that we will be voting on all at one time? Seeing none, Clerk Schultz, would you call a roll?
Steele?
Yes.
Bernie?
Yes.
Dalrymple?
Yes.
Flood?
Yes.
Urbanowski?
Yes.
Barnett?
Yes.
Schultz, yes.
That motion passes 7-0. Congratulations, Trevor and Forrest. Patrick, I know you're here. Do you want to come forward and introduce these 2 gentlemen to our board?
Oh, well, thank you, board. Amazing to have a couple more employees. This is Trevor Hudson. He comes with a wealth of knowledge. He worked for a nearby community in Parks and Rec field. I won't say which one it is because we're better. What else? And he's a local boy, like Orion, born and raised, and he has experience with one of the local golf courses, so bringing his field expertise will be greatly utilized and greatly appreciated.
Yes, like I said, I was born and raised here. I graduated in 2013, shot up to Central, got a bachelor's in outdoor recreation management. I have over 12 years of outdoor maintenance experience, and I'm just looking forward to helping lead and guide the seasonal workers here this summer and seeing what we can do within Oakland County Parks.
Awesome.
Orion Parks.
Yeah, Orion. Hey, local guy, welcome. Welcome,
Don't go over
Trevor.
there.
All right, and one more.
And then this is Forrest Burr, wealth of knowledge coming from his end as well. He's gonna be the safety path and trails worker, which Donnie, I know you're smiling about right now. His attention to detail is one of the things that really stood out about in his hiring process, that we're really excited to have on board. He's gonna have some big shoes to fill with the previous safety path maintenance worker, but we know he's gonna do a great job.
Thank you. It's great to be here with you all. I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. I'm kind of an avid outdoorsman myself. I do automotive detailing right now, so as Patrick pointed out, I do like to think that I have good attention to detail. So, but I'm really looking forward to this position and working outside and interacting with people in the environment. So thank you all. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
I have one comment.
Go ahead.
Thanks, you guys, for joining the group and the team. And just as you walk down the trails, pay attention to the bittersweet vines that are choking out the trees. I took a walk this afternoon, and it's like, it is scary. It looks like kudzu all over the place. So I'm just trying to bring awareness while I have the mic. Thank you.
And Trevor, or Forrest, I'll tell you what car she drives afterwards, so you can keep an eye out. No, I'm kidding. Thank you, and welcome, guys. Welcome to the team. All right, that completes our, oh, no, yeah, we already voted. Yeah, that did complete our consent agenda. Moves us on to our pending business. We have 3 items, and it did get rearranged a bit, as mentioned a few minutes ago. First item tonight for consideration is the Gainsborough condemnation. We did hold a public hearing, and we did get comments from Mr., say the name right, I'm sorry, Mr. Trigger, who is the attorney for the property owner, Mr. Franks, and I think they're both here tonight. So just, I had a couple questions. We do have some options here. You know, this is a challenge. None of us like to do any of these, certainly. But, you know, when we have complaints from residents, we investigate with ordinance enforcement. And then certainly our biggest goal is to make sure that life safety, you know, people are safe. So that's why we are here. I think this is only the second one of these we've done in the 10 years I've been in this role. So these aren't real comments. So the board isn't probably even really familiar with this process. But again, it's all about life safety. I know that the applicant is here. I'm sorry, not the applicant, but the petitioner is here. Couple questions I had for our building official. Have you been able to, I know at the hearing officer's hearing findings, he noted that he would like the ordinance enforcement to be able to have access to the inside of the home to check the safety. Has that been able to happen? Have we been able to go inside the home?
Yes, actually Kirk Larson visited there just recently, and he gave us a report on the 21st showing several still inadequacies with the property maintenance. But we have had free access. They've been willing to give us that.
Okay, great. So is there any concern that it's, the safety of the structure today? I mean, is it an imminent concern, or?
I don't know if it's salvageable with the black mold and the condition it is in. To give a background on this, we started this in June of 2020. We issued a citation in May. We had a court case, and at that court case, the seller, or the homeowner, was given 45 days to sell the property, and then the owner of that would have 45 days to bring the property into compliance. We saw no movement there, still moved when we had a court case in February of 22, and there was a no-show. So that's why we're here. I understand that we have supply shortages and labor shortages, but we've been dealing with this for 2 years, and I think the property is in worse condition because several things weren't done in the interim, which could have really helped, which is, number one, sealing it. You can see by the photos and report we have filed by Kirk Larson that the house is still not weather tight. On the side there, you can see there's a lack of a weather barrier on the exterior. There's still holes in there. One of the biggest things too I had a problem with was, you know, we did have a service that was put in just recently without a permit, and it was put in a manner that really wasn't conducive to safety. Actually ran through a sprinkler box. So there's several things that are still, you know, you can see the structural post there, that is, you know, that's a structural issue that it could have imminent failure. Now, Kirk Larson's a structural engineer, he still have concerns with this property. With the manner of how we've gotten to where we are, I still have concerns with it as well. As you can see, the black mold located in the bathroom there, you know, when you're dealing with black mold in a house that hasn't had conditioning in first 2 to 3 years, and who even knows, we've had property maintenance violences on this since '09. Who knows how long that has been out. You know, it gets into the exterior and interior of the walls and in the attic. You know, it could take a major remediation. To me, it may be unsalvageable.
And there's new electric service, is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
you see that picture to the right there? That's actually the service line that's running up through that box there, and typically that's not a matter. I don't even know how DTE was able to put that service in, because they require a sticker on the box that's green and signed by our electrical inspector. So I was a little concerned on how they even got that service put in. And you can see the soffit there, allowing critters and whatnot to still get up in the attic. So, you know, who even knows, our enforcer haven't got up into the attic to see what kind of condition that is in as well.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Schultz.
Can you go to the motion for
I
me?
will,
I appreciate that we're going through this process, and I appreciate the information you presented tonight, but I highly doubt that this would be able to be fixed with any period of time, as it has definitely something that's occurring over more than just the past 2 years. The decay of the home, the overall upkeep of it, it doesn't seem that it is just a 2-year process. Therefore, I move to approve the hearing officer's order issued following the condemnation hearing held on March 21st, 2022, on the basis that the property remains in violation of the International Property Maintenance Code, Edition 2012, adopted by the Township Ordinance Number 137, and the Dangerous Building Ordinance Number 105, and hereby direct the property owner to demolish the building and garage on the property commonly known as 3826 Gainsborough, Orion Township, Michigan, within 60 days. That's my motion, and I have comments.
Okay, is there support?
Support.
Okay, go ahead with your comments.
And just my comments are the safety for the neighborhood, for the kids, for people that are maybe in and out of that building. The fact that it's not contained, the fact that it's open, that really concerns me. And there was an area I had a question at. It looked like it was an open pit in the ground that was surrounded by some kind of plastic. Can you talk about that a little bit? Maybe go back to that picture.
You know, it looks like an access hatch to the basement or an old window well, I believe, but it still remains open at this time. That right there?
That concerns me greatly. And then the mold, I mean, that's secondary, but that didn't just happen in the past 2 years. The way that the building has decayed and fallen apart is substantial, and I'm concerned for your safety as well, sir.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Are there any other comments or questions from the board? I have a question just for Mr. Trigger or Mr. Franks about the electric service, if it was actually put in by DTE or if there was permits pulled for that. Are there any other comments or questions for the board? Yeah, maybe you guys can come forward and we can have some discussion here.
My question was, what was if this didn't go through, what was the plan to fix the issue? I mean, it's like, there's a lot to be fixed.
This is David Franks.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Franks, for being here. And obviously, this is not fun for any of us. I guess just order of, I don't know if there's a right order here or not, but, I mean, I know there are people that will purchase homes, maybe not, you know, that in this condition. We've actually seen it happen here, and this is what they do, and they can turn it around. I mean, it's not just a concern for the people that might try to occupy it like you, but the neighbors certainly as well, and the kids that are in the area. I mean, have you thought about that? Have you thought about maybe working with a company that will buy these as investments and flip them? Obviously, they would do the work, but, do you plan it? You don't live there now, correct?
I don't plan on selling it.
Okay.
I just want to get it cleaned up and get it to the point where it's not selling it for $10,000 kind of thing. I do have a mortgage still currently on it, and I'd like to get enough to satisfy that mortgage. So what we're doing is, like I said, we're going to do a bunch of interior cleanup. We're demolishing that outbuilding, or the out addition, which needs to come down. Can you back up one? That is covering that access to the crawl space. Apparently, it was removed to take that picture, because it is covered as of yesterday, the last day I was there.
Okay.
I just want to clarify that, sorry.
This electric service, it's a bit concerning. Who put that in, and was it permitted? Did DTE do that? This over here?
He connected it. I've since got a permit for it. What had happened was the tree branch came down in the back and tore the DTE line down. So it was actually ripped off of the house, and the equipment was in too poor a condition to consider trying to put back up, so we merely replaced it, what was there. Back when I did the second floor addition, there was an electrical permit, and there was a rough inspection on that. But actually just Friday, I purchased a permit for that, and we'll have it inspected.
Okay. You pulled a permit through the township?
Yes.
Okay,
I have a copy, or not a copy, I have the permit with me if you'd like to see it.
okay.
If I may, I could talk on those permits that
Yeah.
you're speaking of. We did have permits from 2008, 2009. One was rough approved, one was rough disapproved. They've never had finals. So that means they've never been fully inspected. We also had a mechanical permit in 2008, which was for the addition in the garage. That had a rough approved, but never a final.
So
And
the
we had
addition
plumbing
that was put on was never final, was never,
No, it never had a final trade permits, and
Okay.
those permits were all subsequently closed. The rough was in 2005, they were closed in 2008.
Did he just pull permits?
He did-
Did you say that you just pulled new permits? Is that what I?
what did you pull permits for recently, Mr. Frank? Oh, so you pulled electrical permits to address it.
We had an electrical permit issued for that service. We have yet to do an inspection on it. So it hasn't been called in.
Penny?
Was the house vandalized to get it? Can you tell us when that occurred and what happened?
Basically, Mr. Larson made note of it in his report as well. But apparently sometime, I got out of the hospital between the start of all this, somebody got in. Apparently they were looking for valuables, which I had removed once I got out of the hospital and was able to get moving around again. There was no evidence of that in the first 4 or 5 months. And then all of a sudden it was just whoop. They went through kitchen cabinets, just pulled everything out, threw it all over the place. It's just a mess. To the tune of a 30-yard dumpster full. There was none of it that you would even think about salvaging. Trampled over. Basically, that's what happened in there. It created the internal problem.
I'm sorry that occurred.
Julia?
I know that you said that you had a siding company that you had talked with.
Yes.
Do they have a date when they could start?
He's supposed to be there this coming week, or, this week, to look it over, measure it, and give me a price on it, and then we'll discuss that.
What are you asking for, Mr. Trigger or Mr. Franks? You're obviously not wanting us to condemn the home for demolition, but, I mean, you mentioned in your comments, Mr. Trigger, something about 120 days.
We're just looking for a reasonable amount of time where he can continue to make the progress. Once he gets a contractor in there, then it's not just Dave and his volunteer friend. He's got somebody in there that's going to finish the exterior, take care of all those cosmetic things, the openings where we're concerned that animals will infiltrate the house. I think that's a giant leap in the right direction, and that's the person apparently that's going to come and give him a bid this coming week. And I understand the frustration here, and I understand the concerns, But it's not as if this house is missing doors or windows or is open to the public in any way. That board that was removed, that you saw in that picture, was removed by presumably a building department official to take a picture. Ultimately, that is a closure for access to his crawl space, as I understand it.
That is correct.
And the house is otherwise secure right now. It just needs exterior cosmetic work, interior cleaning, and some revisions there. It can be salvaged. I mean, the township hates this house so much, they raised his assessment $18,000 between 20 and 21. So we can't sit here and say there's nothing of value here to salvage when the assessor in your municipality believes that the value actually went up during that period of time. We're just looking for a chance for him to salvage the place. Demoing it makes no sense at all. It's waste, in my view, and ultimately, if he can get it cleaned up to the point where it can be sold, someone else comes in, it's their starter home like it was for him 30 years ago. Ironically, I just want to point this out. As he was going through the process last summer, he had the court case and, you know, the pressure was on, and he was looking for options. Clean-out companies wouldn't help him. He had realtors come to look at it, see, hey, maybe I can just do a quick flip, salvage what I can salvage. Because the condemnation notice, unsafe structure notice, was plastered on the front window or front door of the house, the realtors wouldn't even go in to look at it to list it. So he was boxed out from that opportunity then. I'm still not sure he's going to be able to pull that off now, but at least we'd like him to have the opportunity to do that.
I hear you, appreciate that. But as we've just heard from our building official, I don't have a lot of confidence. Mr. Franks, you put this addition on, right? You've never gotten proper certificate of occupancy since 2008, 2009. It looks like there's still stickers on the windows from when you purchased them. Did you ever occupy the upper level of the home?
The upper level is not finished. There was a little bit of an issue there, and I probably should have pursued it a little further. There was an issue there, and I'm sure it's listed in the record about get finals and go. Okay. We had some problems, or I had some problems with my business at that time, and funds really weren't there to finish the interior of that space. So when I did get all the roughs through the mechanicals, I called for a rough building inspection, which is the next step prior to doing any interior drywall or insulation or anything. And the inspector came out and looked it over, made note of one or two items, and he said, I'm not worried about that because I can see that been corrected when I come to do the insulation inspection. Like, okay. And he's getting ready to write out the sticker and said, you know, if I do this, it's really going to hinder my enforcement actions or my abilities to enforce the court paperwork and all, you know, the court order. He's like, so you can go ahead and do your insulation, but I'm not going to give you a rough building sticker. Well, that is in violation of what the ordinances and the permitting and everything say to do. So at that point, it was like, here we go, now what? And again, I didn't have the funds to do it, so it wasn't, you know, a pending matter at that moment.
Can I just attempt to clarify an issue? Mm-hmm. The addition that I referred to when I initially spoke this evening was a one-story addition that was on the back of the house when he bought the house.
Correct.
That's a ground-level addition, and that's where the roof showed some signs of failure, and that's what has been demolished in the rear of the house. The addition I think we were just addressing was you added a second story to the home, and ultimately, that was never finished?
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, the point I was trying to make was just, you just made it, is this isn't over the last 6 months or since your unfortunate health issues, and I'm sorry to hear that. It's, the neighbors have been living with this for a decade, more than a decade. So I mean, that's why I am not, unfortunately, super optimistic that you're gonna be able to accomplish this in the next 120 days if we agree with that number. So, you know, Mr. Trigger, I don't know, maybe there's a way you can help more. I mean, I know there are companies that will take homes in all kinds, and maybe this is outside of the scope of your normal purview here, Mr. Franks, but there are companies that take homes in all kinds of shapes. I'm not positive that every leaf has been turned, and frankly, you remember, we represent all residents in Orion. We want to support you. As I mentioned when we started this, is in the 10 years I've been here, we've only done this one other time. This isn't something we like to do, but we only do it as a last resort. And unfortunately, you've shown us that, you know, we're at this point, not because of this board, but because of actions or non-actions by you. So I'm not totally opposed to giving you a shot, but I'm not convinced, frankly, and no offense, but I'm not convinced that you're gonna be able to get this done if we gave you 90 days or 120 or 360, to be honest.
Well, would it be possible that through the time period that's granted, we were able to give you progress reports as to what's been accomplished or pictures along with that so that you can see this is moving forward?
I'll let the board speak to that in a minute, but I know Dave has his hand up. Mr. Goodloe?
If I may, you talk about having a siding contractor. I think this house needs more than a siding contractor. You know, the wood on the exterior is shot, all has to be removed. Any of that wood that's soaked with moisture over the years has lost its structural capabilities. So it needs major work just to put siding on it. So it seems to me, with the amount of cost of material and labor at this point, it's almost cheaper just to demo the house and have it a clean piece of property for some real estate to move in and do that. And I understand you have a mortgage and that's probably an issue, but, just putting siding on, it's not gonna fix the interior issues with the mold and everything. You're talking a, significant bill for that, and the last thing we wanna do is, put a burden on you. But you're only gonna dig a deeper hole if you dump more money into this property, in my opinion, as the condition it is in. That's just, what I see and how I see it. And our engineer is, structural engineer, he's, Kirk Larson, done a great job on this, and, he concurs as well.
Okay. Any other discussion from board members? Julia?
I appreciate that you want to give progress reports if you are able to keep going on this, but I'm worried too. Are you gonna keep putting more and more in? But that's a you decision to come up with, so thank you for volunteering the progress reports.
Dan, just a procedural question. The motion was to order the demolition. Talk about if the vote is successful in support of the motion, he does not have the right to try to fix up anything anymore, or?
Yeah, I think it's important to realize that that's exactly right. The order is to direct him to demolish it within 60 days. If he doesn't demolish it, then presumably the township would enter on the property and actually demolish the property. The issue of giving him time to correct the problem has already passed. I mean, the order by the hearing officer was entered back in November. He was given 90 days at that point to correct the problem, and we have a second order from the hearing officer determining that that time had lapsed and that he did not fix the problem within the 90 days. Now, I'm not saying that the board, if presented within the next 60 days, could reverse their order, and that's possible. But the motion is directing him to tear it down, and if he doesn't do it, we're gonna come in and tear it down. Does that help?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure it was clear. Okay, yes, Misty.
I always wondered about the mortgage, and I know it's really not our issue, but if you have like, I don't know, $100,000 mortgage and the lot's only worth 30, I mean, does that, the bank's issue at that point is,
Yeah.
he still has to be responsible for that mortgage moving forward. And I always wondered if you were underwater, I mean, in the sense of that the value of selling it was below what you owed on it, and that's why you didn't sell it. I was wondering if that was the delay in trying to sell it.
No, it would have been very close or kind of a wash prior up to, I'd say, like last year when the property values went through the roof.
I think the only other point that I would make, and I think Dave made this point, is the granting of time leads him to believe if he invests more money in the property, he can fix the problem. And that may not be true, right? So he's actually burying himself even further. But that's up to him if he decides that he wants to invest more money. The motion as stands would be, if no other action were taken in 60 days, it needs to be torn down, or we'll do it ourselves.
In the event that somebody bought it in the next 60 days, then, I mean, the new buyer would still be, this condemnation would go to the new buyer.
Yes, yes.
Okay. We're in a tough position. This is one of the not fun things to be on a board like this about. I came from the construction industry, so I have some experience in this, and I do also share the same concerns that we've heard from our building official. We don't want you to just slap siding on a building that sounds like has lots of issues inside those walls and things. And, you know, we would be inspecting all that, right? I see the pictures, I've driven by it a few times, we've taken lots of complaints over the last, from the neighborhood, to be honest, you know, so we have to respond to those. I'm just really leery about, this isn't a project you can just slap siding on.
No, I understand that.
I mean, there's so much, like hundreds of thousands of dollars of work, hundreds of thousands of them. Is that something you're in a position to do?
I don't see it being in over $100,000, but yes, I can do that.
I would like to vote.
Okay. Go ahead.
One more time. So since November, what are the projects that you've worked on?
We did the interior clean out, which was quite a task through the dead of winter. We're demolishing this, it will be down Friday, and cleaned up and hauled out and gone. So they were the two big ones. Actually, they had to get electricity in there so we could see what we were doing. And the next focus is this picture right with the window. We've got to replace that sheething and then sheet the back end where we removed that addition. That's the next step. Prior to siding, I understand that we can't just go over that with siding. I wouldn't even try.
You also replaced the roof on the first
Yes.
floor section of the home, the original first floor section. Is there any way possible you would consider, short of, because once this decision is made, it's demo and nothing else. I can't imagine he's going to find somebody that'll buy it with a demolition order hanging over it. And I know it's been a long haul, but ultimately, I think if we look at this house and say, oh, that's been that way for a decade, I don't really think that's true. When I reviewed the building department files, years ago, it was about weeds and yard upkeep more than anything else. And then he had those open permits for the second floor that he built that he was stalled because of financial and business problems. I think the serious deterioration you see here really started when this wave of enforcement took place, which I believe was June of '20. And ultimately, so we're not quite 2 years into this mess. It seems like it would be appropriate to give him an opportunity, one last chance, if you will. Give him 60 days, and if he can come here and show the building department and show this board significant progress, then maybe he gets a reprieve beyond that. If he doesn't satisfy you at that point, your decision will already be made for you. I'm just trying to get him one final opportunity. He has the money to do it. He's finally lined up a workman to do some exterior stuff, some of that cosmetic stuff. I would just like to ask you to consider giving him that one last chance.
Yes.
I'm concerned about, like, you know, you do that and you do some of the repairs and the structural damage is still there. Does it leave liability on us as a board of not moving forward and taking care of an issue in which we have been privy to.
Well, I don't see the liability on the township. What I would suggest, though, if the board is inclined to consider that request, that we obtain a voluntary waiver from the property owner of any objections to proceeding after that 60-day grace period, if you will, which would address those liability concerns as well.
And if the board was inclined to do that, I'd ask that a building permit be applied for with a full scope of work of what would be done, and then a preliminary walkthrough before it's issued to just assess whether or not it's possible.
So if that was the case, and there was a permit, and you walk through and you say it's not possible, then
You can take out a whole wall and fix it, right? It's how much he's willing to do. So, if the whole wall is filled with mold and it all has to be replaced, you'd have to replace the whole wall, and support everything. It's
Yeah.
holding up. So, if we're in there and we see a scope of work and we see, and if it's not possible, I think we would definitely have a chat at that time. My thing is, that would give us some assurance on more, but then have them come back and.
And that's what I was getting at. That's my concern, and I've seen this before too. That's where you get to the hundreds of thousands. If truly those exterior walls, maybe not all, but some need to be replaced, it's not just like take a 2x4 out, put one in. You have to shore up the floor. You have to, it's a huge process and expensive, and I haven't been through the house. I've seen it from the road many times. I've seen these pictures. I'm just not convinced, and I'm worried again that, our job is the health, safety, and welfare of the people that live here, including you, or whoever buys that home next. I'm worried if we put, no offense, sir, but lipstick on a pig and throw some siding on it and it gets sold, that we find out, we know already, we have a home that permits were pulled 13, 14 years ago. They were never closed out. The upper level still not occupied, was never occupied. We know we have a house that's not done. So, the empathy, my heart is like, I want to give you a chance. I think that my mind is telling me we've given you a chance. And I'm concerned about this house getting flipped and it becoming a huge issue for some young family that's trying to move into the community, and they finally found something they can afford, only to find out that it is a nightmare underneath the walls. And this is not a cheap fix. This is not siding, from what I can see. And we have to take the expertise of the people that we hire to do the job, our building official, our ordinance enforcement officer, who's also an engineer. I'm just really concerned that I want to give you the time. I just don't see how it happens. So go ahead, Penny.
Health, safety, and welfare of the community is what I'm looking at singly. You're part of the community as well. That's my biggest concern, regardless of the cost to bring it up to a standard that is compliant with all of our ordinance. I don't know that the ability's there, nor is that my decision to make. I'm looking at one thing: health, safety, and welfare of the community. Our building official is telling us this building should be condemned. There has been an opportunity to remedy that. It has not been done, and therefore my motion was made to demolish. There's 60 days there, and that's the time period that we need to have this completed should the board approve it.
Any other comments from the board? Okay, we'll call the motion on, call the vote on the motion that's on the screen that was made by Clerk Schultz and supported by Ms. Steele. Go ahead, Clerk Schultz.
Bernie?
Yes.
Dalrymple?
No.
Flood?
Yes.
Urbanowski?
yes.
Barnett?
Yes,
Schultz, yes. Steele?
Yes.
the motion passes 6-1. Thank you for coming tonight. I'm sorry it didn't go the way you wanted.
For your consideration.
Thank you. Best of luck. Next item on tonight's agenda is item 9B, second reading on a mobile food established ordinance. This is on page 85 of your packets. We have received a decent amount of feedback from some local food truck owners and residents, and there's been a hearty discussion amongst Orion staff as well. So basically, the request is to discuss and consider solutions for regulating and inspecting mobile food establishments. And I think that we should have some discussion on this. There's been, since we first had the item on our agenda a month or so ago, we actually at that meeting, there were some good points brought up by a couple board members. We've had meetings with the building official, the planning director, fire chief, fire marshal since that time. And so I think it's appropriate to have a discussion. I mean, we have some recommended tweaks to the original proposed ordinance, which in full disclosure, we basically took, I think it was Royal Oak and Oxford's, and sort of put those together to come up with sort of a draft for Orion Township to consider for our potential ordinance. As mentioned, you can see in there's some red line items since the last board meeting, because we did talk extensively about private events, or we had a lot of discussion about private events. So just high level from me, and then I'll throw it to the board for some discussion. We want to support, thank you to Fire Marshal Williams and Fire Chief Duke for bringing this to us originally a while back, for the sole intent to make sure that we're providing safe events for our residents. And that's the number one goal of our fire department, is to keep our residents safe. So thank you, Jeffrey and Chief Duke, for what you guys do for us. And I'm fully in support of that. I want to make sure in doing that, we don't create something that will be really challenging to enforce. And so those are kind of my comments on the front end. We did have some discussion. Some of the things covered in this potential ordinance are covered in other ordinances that already exist in the township. Our zoning ordinance, also our outdoor, what is it called? Outdoor Assemblies Ordinance, Ordinance 29, which I printed, and I can pull up on the screen as well. So there's just been some thoughts here, and I want to make sure, I am not a big person on creating an ordinance that's going to be challenging to enforce. We want to make sure that the fire department gets to inspect these, and I love the idea that you brought to us saying inspect them, give them a sticker so they're good for the whole year. And then we went down the wormhole of what if a food truck just comes to one event in someone's backyard, or an ice cream cart? Where is the line there? So I know we've had some spirited discussion. I think we all have strong opinions, or some of us have strong opinions. So that's kind of the opening. I want to get this done so we can do that. We can inspect these, but I want to make sure we're not putting something in place that's going to be difficult to enforce. Ms. Schultz.
And because it is a second reading, I want to note for the board and for the public that we did receive comments from Matt Shadzar, pardon me if I didn't say that correctly, Brent Taplin, and also Garrett Hoffman regarding this second reading for this ordinance.
Okay. So, I mean, we could declare the second reading held. There were some proposed changes, or we could look at attacking this from a different angle. I'm open to the board's pleasure regarding that. Or we could hear from our fire marshal or fire chief as well.
That's who I want to hear from.
Okay, let's hear from our fire marshal. Thank you for being here.
Does it work?
Williams.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, we were tasked with this. The process started June 17th, roughly around 10 months ago, with the direction of the supervisor advised us. We had voiced our concern in regards to food trucks. We've been seeing several of them out in the township over the past several years, especially at assembly permits, Canterbury Village, things like that, even events at Orion Center as well. When we were out and going to these different venues, we were seeing them, noting violations on the food trucks, and it was very hard to conduct enforcement when you have an assembly event going on with hundreds of people there. The intent, the direction behind the ordinance is to be able to get the inspection and enforcement taken care of off-site, be able to issue a permit to the food truck owner so they can go out and complete operations without us bothering them at an assembly occupation or assembly permit, so.
Are there places in the ordinance you would choose to change as we presented it?
In regards to what?
For second reading, all of it. Basically, what when we were getting ready to do this, and you've heard the comments from everybody, did you have suggestions for changes?
Yeah, we provided our comments to the attorney. I believe it's in one of the back pages. There were several items that we are in favor of doing. I believe it was the awning height we were okay with. Another one that we didn't have concern with was lighting. And Dan, do you have the other list of changes?
Well,
We have it in our packet, but I wanted the people in the room to know that.
Yes, it was the awning height, the lighting, and overnight parking. Had no concerns with that whatsoever.
Mike?
Jeff, is it more of a problem with the commercial venues than it is like a private homeowner who I'm gonna have a graduation party for my daughter, and I got maybe 40, 50 guests coming? Is it more focused, or you want an overall umbrella?
The intent of the ordinance is to be able to cover a safe environment no matter what the venue is. If it's a backyard graduation party or if it's a event at Canterbury Village that is gonna see 800 different people. We had questions brought to us that said, okay, well, why would you have concern about, someone doing a graduation party? From a life safety standpoint, why would we want to not have our eyes visually on that truck, be able to conduct an inspection, be able to certify it, tag it with a sticker, give them a permit, and have that homeowner know that that truck is safe when it's parked in their backyard or on their street, and conducting service for their guests. It was something that I don't understand how we could turn away from something like that, but yet pay attention to commercial. When it comes to life safety, we would want to concentrate on everything. And that's the intent of the ordinance, is to get the food trucks to come in, get inspected, get certified, and then they're good to conduct operations throughout anywhere in the township that they feel necessary.
One concern I have right now is that a lot of venues are already booked, graduation parties and
Yep.
the Canterbury, we've already approved all their events and stuff.
Yep.
Will this be looking at starting this for the next season?
No, it would be the intent to start this immediately.
No one would be grandfathered?
No. No.
That's a concern I have.
Yep, and I completely understand that, and just so you understand from a fire department standpoint, we jumped on this immediately in June of last year. We were very aggressive with it, and we responded very quickly, so.
I understand we can't ever put a timeline on health and safety.
Yes.
Understand that.
Yep, exactly.
Connie?
My concern is the enforcement of it, because if I have a party, I would never know, other than being on the board.
Yep.
I would never know that this was here, and I mean, we have a hard time enforcing, the weeds and the fences, and I'm just wondering if we're gonna be running around, looking for people that have a couple trucks in their backyard, and I know that there's a couple venues like homeowners associations, they're not gonna even know that this even exists, and that's, we do have two enforcement. They don't work on the weekends. I see these being a weekend occurrences, people having these on the weekends, and I'm just afraid that we'll set an ordinance and not be able to enforce it. Some people will follow it, and some people won't, and that's my concern.
Can I speak on that?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
In regards to that, we did meet with Oakland County Health Department a week ago. We had a meeting with them. They had seen that this was getting posted in the newspaper, and they had questions and concerns also. After meeting with them, it is a license that a mobile food truck owner has to do, that is by state laws, have, approval through the health department as well. When we explained to them the intent of the ordinance and what our direction was, they were very in favor, and actually contacted us and wanted to create a partnership with us. They offered, any food truck that comes in the township is required to have that state certification approval through Oakland County Health Department. They've even offered to be able to hand out our information to each of the applicants that are going to be cooking in Orion Township, and then that way they're notified and they have an understanding that they need to contact us and schedule this inspection before they begin operations.
Ryan, go ahead.
So when this all started, I've probably, besides Supervisor Barnett, I've probably talked to the fire department the most about this in our weekly meetings and going over things. My concern always from the start was, affecting small businesses and making sure that we're not hindering our small businesses. And that was one of the reasons why they put together this plan of one stop. When they come for one time, they get a sticker. It's only $100 if done correctly. There is a $250 increase if it's within 2 days. Obviously, that's incurs overtime or rush job for our fire marshals. But the point of this obviously is not to hinder food trucks. This is not an anti-food truck ordinance. It's just to make sure the fire department has what they need to make sure it's a safe environment. That's why I'm in favor of it. Now, there are some things in there that are probably unnecessary. I mean, from talking with the chiefs and the fire marshal, their concern was never, lighting and things like they have just said. So I think there is some room to, figure this out and make it so that it's the best of both worlds. I don't know how that process works in a second reading, so on. But I do think it's important that this is something that arms them with the ability to be able to go do their job, because they're always looking for the worst-case scenario, and to make sure that the township is safe. There are some food trucks out there, we all know, that are not up to standards. That's just the fact. There are some that are fantastic, like some of our own residents.
And Brian,
We
if
all
I
know
could
that.
speak to that,
Sure.
just so the board understands the situation that our division has been put in. We've been in situations where where an assembly permit application has been pulled. We've been on those sites on Saturday afternoons with, I think one of them had close to 400 people. We're out there trying to conduct the inspection. There's over 100 people in line for this actual mobile food truck. We're there trying to do enforcement. The owner is there trying to actively cook, move food around, things like that. We're in there moving in their way, trying to look at tags, complete our inspection. It is a very unprofessional atmosphere, not only for the mobile food truck owners, but also for the attendees that have paid money to go to these events. The intent is to get it in a controlled atmosphere, get the job, get the objective taken care of off-site, and then when they're at these assemblies or in a neighborhood or at a graduation party, they can freely operate without having to worry about us interrupting them.
So the process literally is schedule a meeting at, a given time that's convenient for both parties. You pull up your truck, they perform an hour-long inspection.
If that.
$100, they get a sticker, you never have to talk to them again.
Yes.
It's that simple.
Annual
And that's
permit?
an
Yes, it
annual
is.
to
So-
December 31st.
Yep, December 31st. We wanted to make it so basically there's a start and end period for every single food truck owner. We vetted this out, so we contacted Oxford, Alpena, Kalamazoo, Royal Oak, and Sterling Heights. Our intent to do this was to make it as easy as not on them as possible. We envision, if this was to pass tonight, we envision that the beginning of every single year, example would be right now, springtime, weather's getting nice. We get flushed full of inspections, we complete them, tag them, certify, and they're free to operate throughout the entire township.
Are they reciprocal in between different municipalities? So if I'm a food truck and I go to 10 towns?
No,
So you would have to pay,
permit is only
$100.
good for Orion Township.
And then, does it include ice cream trucks?
No. In the ordinance, it specifically states that it has to have commercial cooking equipment that is located on the vehicle.
And then,
I want to clean that up, because to me, it just is commercial equipment that involves the preparation and sale of food.
Commercial kitchen equipment.
But, you can have a commercial freezer, right? I just want to make sure it's clear. I don't want it to apply to someone that rents an ice cream cart.
There would be no intent or no reasoning for us to inspect an ice cream truck.
I just want to make sure. So I think that could be tightened up a
yeah,
little
and
bit.
then the other one was, and this is the first I heard about this was the last meeting, so it's like June, I didn't know you guys were working on it since June. So the other one is, if someone were to cook outside, you know, I would think that they would be allowed to, because like, you know, the pork, what is it, the rib roast, they're doing that stuff for the most part outside, and I know, a lot of it's not under a tent, I understand.
Yeah, so
that.
we run into those types of situations. Perfect example would be Canterbury Village across the street. When those assembly permit applications are applied for, we do go out and we conduct an on-site inspection. Those types of situations would involve if there was a violation, that would be more of a fire code violation and fall under our ordinance 146, which adopts our fire code. When we're out there doing that assembly inspection, that's when we would note or address that violation, is when we're conducting that type of inspection.
Can you roast ribs outside of the,
So what we have seen, there has been a decent amount of drivers or mobile food truck owners that have come. We've seen situations where there's been violations, unsafe violations that we've seen on site. They have requested to be able to take their cooking equipment off and cook out in the yard or underneath a tent. In some of those situations, it does lead to a fire code violation where we cannot allow it.
so you can't cook
No, you cannot.
ribs
cook under-
outside of the,
You can cook ribs out in an open space. Cooking cannot take place underneath a tent. That is a fire code violation.
okay. And then one other thing is, in the parks, how many food trucks are you running into? And I saw them at Wildwood, I saw them at Camp Agawam.
I mean, it's increasing the numbers as we go, but I agree. One instance, Mr. Williams was speaking of was out at the Orion Center when we had a food truck rally. And to have the fire department go through, do inspections the day of, and if there was an issue, making the fix that day is unprofessional for both the food truck, the attendees. So I like the
It is
idea of
not a
doing the
fun
inspections ahead of
atmosphere.
time.
What did you just say, Aaron? I'm sorry.
I like the idea of doing the inspections ahead of time.
Thank you.
I think it makes sense.
Go ahead.
You had your hand up before I did.
Probably should go
Sorry,
last.
sorry.
Wait,
First of all, I just want to say that there, obviously, is inspecting anything that, I don't know if you know, but I used to be in culinary business, and I had a commercial kitchen in a store that I owned, and I had to have it inspected, and grease trap in the hood and the whole thing. I get it, it's absolutely important. I was just concerned with one thing, and it may have changed, and if you're connecting with the health department, that's amazing. And I think trustee Dalrymple did print it, the setup, or the, what did I keep messing it up. The operation.
Plan review.
Plan review, right. My recollection from when they came to inspect mine is they looked at all of those things. They asked me those questions, and they did inspect those things. So if there is a food truck that has an Oakland County Health Division license, and they have been through the process, are we doubling up on
So
things?
that was the intent of the meeting with the health department. They were calling us to be like, hey, are you doing redundant work? Are you doing our job? It was clarified and verified during the meeting. They're not licensed fire inspectors. They are not inspecting food trucks for fire code violations. They're strictly looking at health department issues. An example with that would be, if they're cooking on Saturday and they're gonna cook on Sunday, they explain that there's procedures that must take place in regards to shutting everything down, cleaning, disinfecting everything before operations start back up on Sunday. Those are the types of things that the health department is looking at.
Safe food handling.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Then the only other, I had a couple more questions. That was a big one for me. And then if I have a question about enforcement as well, like how I would prefer it to be, it's just got so much in the weeds with the awnings and the signage and the lights, and I understand that that was addressed, and that's great. But if it's literally just about making sure that it's safe from a fire perspective, I would be in favor of putting it into, that outdoor assembly. Because I think that might actually get the word out better. Because if someone does apply, even if they do, have a party of 100, I think it's 100, is it 100 for outdoor?
I just checked again, it's 50, actually.
Oh, 50.
50.
Okay, so if it's 50 or more and people are applying and it's on there, then it puts that on their radar that it should be looked at.
And
But
just so it's understood, that's what we have currently operated under, and it has been an absolute disaster.
Well, I do think that doing it once a year before an event is a good idea. I mean, nobody wants you out there trying to get into anybody's way minutes before. And I'll tell you this, chefs don't want you in their kitchen while they're busy, and they're not gonna be cute about it.
No,
I know that for a fact. I would also like to see if this moves forward in some way, however way, it's going to happen in some way, shape, or form, but that we have a list for people that we've approved. So
Yes.
that we gotta make it public, put it somewhere that's easy for people to find when they're planning
it's a great idea.
make it super, super easy.
Yep. And that's sort of what the health department felt as well. Like, they were glad to hear that we were gonna be getting information, providing these types of inspections. And then that way, if they had any questions in regards to life safety, or if anybody was operating within our township, we were able to basically work in a partnership to provide them information if it's needed.
I guess for me, just tone down all the other things that that quite frankly threw me off, and I didn't see the forest for the trees of this is, like, my question was, well, what's the point of this? The point of this is fire safety. I read in here a couple times, fire code, fire code, fire code. I know you live by that. I understand that, but I feel like we have to put a little more.
Yeah, and I think just to maybe clear this up, to give Dan some direction. So, this is where I got stuck too a little bit, because I fully support this, but then when we started getting comments and questions, it made me kind of go back through. Is it only in vehicles that are cooking food that you're concerned about?
Vehicles,
Meaning like, okay, so we already said, you said it doesn't mean ice cream trucks, they're just opening a cooler and handing you an ice cream. What about those trucks that I would consider them mobile food trucks that just sell prepared snacks, that they're not cooking anything?
a lot of those types of devices that you're seeing on those trucks are exactly a roach coach. They're electrical appliances that just heat up pre-cooked food. The biggest determination, what causes a commercial kitchen to have a hood is grease-laden vapors.
Yeah.
That's what it's defined as. So if a mobile food truck does not have a procedure that creates grease-laden vapors, meaning that's what starts the fire, then there really, from that standpoint, there is no concern.
And that's kind of what I feel more comfortable with that because, you know, the new kind of cool thing is these little people, I mean, I just saw one today, somebody turned some sort of a horse trailer or something into like a mobile bar.
Yeah.
They could go to someone's wedding or grad party, but if they're not cooking anything, if we separate that, I feel more comfortable because I'm just worried. One, I don't think people are gonna thumb their nose at us and say they're not gonna do it. I just don't know how people are gonna even know about it.
Nor the fact would we, like, if this ordinance was to come into play, we would never require an inspection out of a truck that wouldn't meet the requirements for this type of permit.
Right.
If they call us and say, hey, I'm selling ice cream sandwiches, sorry, sir, you don't have to come here for an inspection.
I just think maybe then tighten up, that we'll have to tighten up the definition a little bit. Because it does say commercial kitchen equipment, but it should maybe say commercial cooking equipment or something. Because if it's, you know, commercial freezer, commercial, you know, if they're not cooking, I like that concept. Dave and then Mike, sorry.
Oh, okay. I just seen this just recently. My concerns with it, the annual permit's great. I was more concerned with the enforcement of it. You know, it doesn't really clearly define who does the enforcement on it. And as, you know, the enforcement overseer of all the ordinances, you know, and enforcing them, I was unclear on who enforces it. Is it going to be the building department or the fire department? Who's going to enforce people not abiding by the ordinance? That was one of my concerns. A lot of the lighting that you speak of, that's all in 78 as well. I do believe the assembly ordinance really needs a redo. I think that this is a great option for having this annual inspection for these food trucks. It would definitely save fire department a lot of time and a lot of energy. But my concern was the enforcement of it.
In regards to that, it's a fire department drafted ordinance. It was our goal from the beginning to have an ordinance that did not place burden on any other department, specifically the building department and the manpower it takes to be able to complete enforcement on that. We worked with Dan Kelly's office in regards to this. It was a very strong opinion of ours that this was a fire department drafted ordinance. The enforcement would be carried through by the fire department.
Mike and then Penny.
Yeah, Jeff, I appreciate you bringing this before the board. At first, I'm thinking, well, I don't like big government. We got over 120, 130 ordinances on the books already. If there's some way we could fold this in with the other ordinance, I look at that too. What I know is you are looking out for the health, safety, and welfare of the residents, and I know that for a fact for the fire department. This is not a money grab. What I want to relate this to, and we had to do this with a couple other ordinances that we've had to resolve here too, and you're very well of the one, when we had to institute the fireworks ordinance.
Yes.
These open tent things. And you guys had to go out and do all the inspections, because most of these were set up in parking lots, make sure the barriers, we had to put a lot of teeth into that ordinance. People were worried about, oh, you're just adding another thing onto the person. No. It worked out great.
Yeah, Trustee Flood, that's one of the biggest things about this is that with life safety, if our township and our board doesn't move in the direction with life safety as it continues to move, meaning in 1990, how many mobile food trucks did you see out driving the streets? This is something that is, to be quite honest with you, last summer took over our township, and I had nothing to work with. I had 2 inspectors that had nothing to work with. I had 2 individuals out on site getting yelled at, people angry, we were disrupting assemblies. This is the ultimate goal. And if we move in that direction, we're accounting for, life safety and moving along and following the mobile food trucks as they grow and grow and grow will actually be accounted for it now.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of comments here that we kind of tighten this up a little bit. Let's keep the KISS theory. I love the KISS theory. Keep it as simple as we can.
Yes.
And then also, we had no problem in this township of permitting garbage trucks. We did hundreds of garbage trucks we had to permit. And they went through the same thing, inspection. Inspection was done by the sheriff's department.
Yeah.
Or the county weighmaster.
Yep.
You know.
And I understand.
This is nothing new for us to do.
And we did defer a little bit of this in regards to an applicant coming to get a permit. We did defer. They're not coming to township offices to be able to get the permit. They're coming straight through fire department offices. But with that being said, Chief Duke got ESO for us. That's the programming software that our fire department operates off of. It has a permit section. It's fully established, drafted, and ready to go. That type of software handles this, so.
Hey, Jim.
Penny.
I'm going to just sit quiet for
Okay.
a moment, and I have a motion when we're ready.
All right.
Julia's got her hand up.
Oh, sorry, Julia.
Okay. I just wanted to say, I agree with Brian that I think that taking out some of this extra stuff that you are saying that doesn't need to be in here might be a cleaner way to take care of some of these things. But I really appreciate like the fire safety and the health safety, like it's so important. Why do we do one side and not the other? I think is a great point that you made too, so I agree with Brian.
We'll let the record reflect that.
You said it first.
Yeah, twice.
Really?
Twice
Note
since
this.
I've known you guys. One, I think that if this goes through, that it has to be on some of your applications. Do you have a food truck? Do you have a fire or something? It just might be able to circumvent some of the people getting missed. And then, has there been many fires? That was my other question. And my last comment was, I think the school, we were frying a lot of hot dogs and hamburgers out back, so I don't know how safe that was back there. It might
Well,
need to be looked at during.
We did get a request from the school district that would this affect them for like the football games and stuff, so You inspect their buildings, right?
Yes, we do. Well, we don't carry authority over their buildings, but we do have a partnership with the school district along with the state of Michigan, basically creating a safer environment for everybody, so.
And I think you're hearing that from all of us. I mean, we all support this. We just want to make sure. I was concerned. I like the idea of parting with the county. That's something that is new to the conversation today. You know, as Kim mentioned, either here or at the last meeting, you know, knowing these guys, you know, we set up a grill at the Miracle Field, and we had to have them come out with the 3 sinks and temperatures of hot dogs. If they are able to help tell food trucks that have you got in your township, because my concern was the big events we want to catch for sure, and just so everybody's clear, you already are doing that at Canterbury, right? Like you're inspecting the truck, I mean, you have some sort of you just don't have the annual sticker to put on there, but you're at least, but it's not ideal. Okay, got it. You say no more. Okay, all right, so we need a tool for sure. I was just concerned about a private event, and I'm thinking less cooking food. The food cooking thing makes a lot of sense. I'm thinking like the ice cream and the easy convenience stuff. I was thinking those were gapped in here. So I think if we clean that up, I think that would be good. Those are my comments. I support this. Penny?
Okay, so, Dan Kelly, how soon can I get an updated copy of the ordinance for publication? We have some changes that we're talking about tonight.
Sure, I mean, by the next meeting. Yeah,
Okay.
2 weeks.
So are we gonna bring it back to the board again with that cleaned up copy? How do we make a motion on something like this?
Right, so that's what I've been weighing back and forth. How many changes are we making to this? If we're sticking with getting rid of what the fire has said they can live with, which is the awning, lighting, and parking, that's not significant in my mind, and we could come back with just a revised second reading. If we're talking about moving it to the assembly ordinance and only business, then that would be a more significant change. So I guess what I'm hearing is more minor changes to what's proposed, so we could bring it back in 2 weeks for a second reading.
And I would have a copy at that time for publication.
Yes.
And then, the fee schedule, tell us that again so the room knows.
So in regards to the fee schedule, everything is going to be on an application that's going to be available online. We're also going to put it on Facebook and hopefully the township website. Basically, the application has all the information for the mobile food truck owner. We have a base fee of $100. So basically, any applicant comes to us and fills out the application. We inspect the mobile food truck. They pay $100 for that inspection. With mobile food trucks, and what was voiced in some of the information that was given to the board is that, well, I just got approval to attend this mobile food truck tomorrow at noon. Well, we have been experiencing a lot of that in the past history regarding mobile food trucks, and what we did is, to account for that, we have an expedited review process. Not that we just want to say, no, we're not available to do the inspection, but the inspection, rushed inspection does come with an additional fee, and that fee's $250.
One more thing I'd like to, I know.
I wasn't quite done.
I'm sorry. I just, before you make a motion, though, I wanted to.
I won't make a motion.
Okay, thank you.
Until I confer with you.
Perfect, thank you.
So we need 2 motions, and one might be to table this. Would that be the proper motion until we can get an updated copy based on the conversation tonight?
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
And then at that time, the fee schedule could come back again, rather than making that motion aside from second reading?
Yeah, we could do that. I'd like some direction on one little issue, which is the administration and enforcement mechanism. You have a difference of, I don't know if it's a difference of opinion, but it can be enforced and administered by the fire and/or building department, so I'd like some direction on that, so I can clean that up too.
And it doesn't seem that the building department should engage at that point. It should be strictly the fire
No,
department.
our prevention division, we're fully staffed. We have 3 personnel, on call 24/7. We are more than willing to take on this ordinance and the enforcement.
Yeah.
That's how we'll write it.
And then Chris, your thoughts?
Well, if we're taking, but if we're gonna take out the awning and the parking and the lighting, I think we should take out the signage.
Oh, yeah.
The signage is already addressed, signs are addressed in another ordinance. And if this is being enforced by the fire department, they're not gonna go out there and measure square footage of A-frame signs and the distance from.
Completely agree.
So I think we should take that out. And then also, I'm not sure why we added that, but the township event requirements, applicants shall obtain permission in writing from the township building director to operate any township event at least 30 days in advance. The township building director can have the authority to limit the number of food establishments. I don't know why we added that. I think that should come out too. But, I mean, I'm good with, like, I know where Dan was going. If we're generally in agreement with just removing some sections, we could almost declare this held.
Well, that was my thought, is if we make it less restrictive, I'm comfortable. If we're making it more restrictive, then the public has a right to be notified of it.
And then I gotta go right back to, when do I get a cleaned up copy for publication?
Right. Well, I'm going to get it to you within 2 weeks. The issue is does the board need to see it to approve it? I think it does at this point. I mean, I'm making some significant changes. So let's come back in 2 weeks, have the board see the final version, approve it, and we'll publish.
I like it.
Okay?
Kim?
I'm not done yet, sorry.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I hear you.
There's a couple other things that I wanted to bring up. The overnight parking, I think this was addressed, and then I'm looking at your letter, Jeffrey, and I don't think that part was addressed. So, but that's not really you, I don't think. But like, someone who owns a food truck is probably not going to have a garage where it's going to be stored.
We talked about just removing that altogether out of this
That's gonna be removed?
That's my understanding.
Okay,
coming out.
I don't remember hearing that.
Well, I would say we're gonna remove that section altogether. Our zoning ordinance, as Dave mentions, ordinance 78, as you know, references when people can park commercial equipment or not, so it's already addressed someplace else.
Okay,
So I don't think it needs to be in this ordinance at all, personally.
right, okay. Just making sure.
And I don't think, and that's the point that we're trying to make, I don't think Jeffrey or Chief Duke care if we tell people where they can park these things.
Most definitely not.
Okay.
Not a concern of ours.
I have a question on,
Anything else, Kim?
I don't know yet. I don't know. Maybe, probably at 2 in the morning, I'll think of
Okay,
something.
Mike?
on the schedule of fees, that won't be part of the ordinance. We want to put that into our schedule of fees process like we do with the rest of the ordinances.
Yeah, with working with Dan Kelly's office, I was working with Brittany to get the application basically adopted by resolution.
There you go.
That way, if we ever do need to change the fees, change the application, it's basically by resolution. We don't have to bring the whole ordinance back.
We're on the same path.
Perfect.
Do you want to try a motion, then we'll get some public comment about bringing it back in 2 weeks for a final second reading?
I think you would do great with
So I
that.
move that we, and we don't, do we need to republish again for second reading?
We'll publish after the second reading approval.
Yeah, so
Take the
based on,
ordinance will become effective upon publication.
so I would move that we direct the attorney to make the changes that we discussed regarding removing sections on awnings, parking, lights, signs, pretty much anything not related to life safety. But keep the life safety stuff all in there, the fire inspection stuff, and also clean up some of the definitions to make sure it's clear that ice cream trucks and other things aren't, and roach coaches, as Kim called them, aren't included. And then bring it back for final adoption at our April 4th meeting.
Support.
Okay. All right, so that's my motion, support. Public comment. I know there's a couple people here, I think they want to talk about it.
Directly in my direction.
Well, there's only a few of you here. I don't know.
All right. All right, I'm Garrett Hoffman. I'm at 2541 Gemini Court. This is my partner.
I'm Matt Shader from 7 North Shore Drive in Lake Orion.
I'd like to start off by saying, as we were getting a food truck, I know I've talked to this with Chris several times last year, and my very first comment is please don't mess with what the fire department's doing, because they do an amazing job with this. So I've not only started by doing events with food trucks, then we decided to buy one. But as soon as we got our license, Jeff was our first call, and we went and got it inspected. Not only have we done that, we've done inspections ahead of time with Rochester Hills. We've done it with Brandon Township. Additional thing that Rochester Hills had and we didn't even think of it, is they had an option where some suggested, like, equipment, and one was an LP detector. So, and we were like, that's a great idea, because we're traveling down the road, and you don't know if any of those hoses or anything get disconnected on your propane. And that detector lets us know that there's an issue, and we added that before we had our Rochester Hills inspection, and they love that. So,
And we also added a carbon monoxide detector as well, which isn't on a lot of fire inspections.
so definitely what Orion Township is doing with the fire department and the safety, we definitely agree with all that. I think the additional issues that you guys have already discussed on taking off of this ordinance was the main issues. The only other issues besides of the ones that you guys were gonna take out would be the limitation on 5 hours for an event, because right there, you're going to affect LO Palooza, because that's an all-day event, and we've worked that event. So eliminating that to a few hours or additional permit, it wasn't explained how much that was, but you might want to look into that, because I know that's going to affect the Daisy Project right there, who is a great community partner. Aside with that, I think what the fire department controlling it is great. The only other suggestion I had last year was making sure that documentation is accessible by everyone, because it's not just the fire department that's going to, we've done stuff for Parks and Rec. They need to be able to see that. Township would need to be able to see that. However that works internally, that would help with streamlining what we have going on. And then aside from that, it was just how you guys were going to handle people violating this, because as I saw it is, because we're already in the community, we're definitely gonna do what's right and have been doing what's right, is we're gonna see all these other trucks, and then I feel like I'm gonna start being the police of these, because I'm an actual resident and business owner that does this, and chasing after these guys, are they doing it right? Because we have already proven with multiple fire departments that we are the industry standard, and with the health department, because we've gotten 100% on every eval that we've done. So with that, if you guys are going to take another 2 weeks, we wouldn't mind if you want to discuss some of this additionally to make this even streamlined as much as possible. But we definitely are with safeties first. And I wouldn't mess with what they're doing, because they're one of the great ones out there.
Thank you. Anything else?
Yeah, and my only concern would be, I know that you were working with the Oakland County in Health Department. But Macomb County, Livingston County, Wayne County, all their food trucks can come in here as well. How are you guys gonna get the word out to them that they have to be?
So basically, am I able to speak back to him?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
Sorry.
Don't want to break procedure. In regards to that, basically what was discussed with Oakland County Health Department is sort of like vice versa conversation. If they are seeing a food truck out on site, if they were to do an inspection, if they receive an application, and in their event sections or the information that they have that they are notified that they're going to be operating within Orion Township, they are going to notify us as well as the applicant that this is an ordinance in place and that an inspection is required before they come into the township. Also vice versa, if we are out, if there's an assembly permit, and we, basically, when you ask for some type of notification, that we have stickers made. So when the mobile food truck comes to the station to be inspected, there's gonna be a sticker that is on the outside of that we put on the outside of the truck, along with a paper permit application. The intent of that sticker is so we're able to walk through, we can see a sticker on the side of the truck, we know they're taken care of, we don't bother them, they continue their operations. When we walk up to a truck that doesn't have a sticker, then we know we may need to do enforcement on that.
Can I ask one thing? Have you guys reached out to Michigan Agriculture as well? Because you're gonna have food trucks that are governed under them, because they don't deal directly with the health department.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I know I'm gonna use LO Palooza for an example.
Yep.
They've had a truck come from other side of the state.
Yeah.
So that might not have a health department and they deal with Michigan directly.
Yep, so what we're trying to do is cover all our bases that we're aware of. We have a good idea of the event holders and the large events that are taking place in the township. They are all actively sitting, waiting for this ordinance to get approved. The second that the ordinance does get approved, they're ready to fire the information off to the mobile food truck owners. You know, the chamber event that's taking place at the Orion Center, Canterbury Village, Palooza, I think we've dealt with a few people in regards to that. It is our goal and our intent to get, as soon as this is approved, like I said, we started working on this of June of last year. Our intent is to get this done, get it vetted, and get it out to the public as fast as possible. We're trying to make this account for life safety, but also make it as easy as possible for you, the actual owner, so.
Appreciate it. You guys doing a great job.
If I can speak in regards to the 5-hour parking, I believe that was put in there from the planning and zoning director in regards to that timetable, the 5-hour timetable, had regards to another ordinance that was drafted that if a mobile food establishment was parked for more than 5 hours, it would actually be in violation of an additional ordinance.
That's true. So,
Well, let's just take it out of this, maybe we can take it out of this ordinance, at least, it's not the
let
intent
the
of this
zoning
ordinance.
ordinance control it? Okay.
But we should add, and I would ask the Attorney Kelly to, I think we should add into ordinance 29 outdoor assemblies, at a minimum, a reference to the food truck ordinance. If the event has a food truck, please reference ordinance, whatever number this is.
Good point.
The only thing I would add is, I've had a conversation with the building director, and he wants a complete revamp of the outdoor assembly.
Well, so let's just add that to, when we revamp that.
Yeah, we'll make note of it, and maybe we'll work on that sooner than later.
Okay,
May I do one other suggestion?
sure.
On that 5-hour, I think the main thing with that is you guys don't want people showing up in a parking lot and being there for hours like they do in Pontiac or at Disney. I think that should be addressed directly to say that we don't, maybe if there's some way you can word it for that to be addressed directly.
Yeah.
Rather than,
We'll look at that. We'll look at that. Yeah. I mean, that was something that when to me, I think that was more when the glass guys were coming and repairing glass and setting up shop in parking lots, not paying taxes and taking business away from brick and mortars. So we'll look at that as well. Thank you. Anything else you guys have?
nope.
Okay, thanks for your comments.
Thank you for your time.
Any other public comment tonight? Okay, so we're gonna throw a bunch of this back to the attorney, but just by my note, we're gonna ask the attorney to bring this back on April 4th for the final second reading and subsequent publication and adoption, with some of the following changes: to look at the definitions, make sure we're excluding ice cream trucks and things that aren't, cooking food, the way Mr. Williams defined, removing the sections on the awnings, parking of the vehicle, the lights, the signs, the things that really don't have to do with necessary life safety that may already be addressed in our zoning ordinance. And maybe in the future, look into adding some references to this new ordinance and outdoor assembly ordinance revamp. Is there any other proposed tweaks or changes that you need more clarification on, Dan, or that I missed?
No, I think I've got it.
Okay.
Really brief?
Sure, yeah.
Just that the parking has to coincide with the event hours in some way. If you can tie that together, that way it gives a little more freedom per the event, like Palooza or down at the Orion Center. So if you can tie that in. And then ordinance for the outdoor assemblies, when do you think we'll see that before the board?
I'll get with Dan and see what kind of timeline we have. Obviously, I'll speak with you too, Penny, I'd like you involved in it as well, because, it does roll through the clerk's department. So I think we still have a little bit of time to discuss that, hopefully get it up before the end of the year.
Sounds good. That sounds good. Okay.
Yeah, and just one more thing on the 5-hour thing. It's mostly, I think and I think we can check this reference, but I don't think it has to do with like events at our parks. It's more when it's to prevent people from setting up in a parking lot and taking business away from the brick and
That's
mortars.
under ordinance 78. This is fire life safety. That's under order 78, which is more of a zoning issue, so yeah, it makes sense.
I don't think that reference is for events that are happening in parks, someone's doing a rental of the event and they're renting the whole park. they can have a food truck for 12 hours. It's for more setting up in commercial business parking lots.
It already exists in our zoning ordinance. That's why it was referenced here.
Yeah, so I think we can probably just remove that,
Yeah.
let the other thing prevail, and, because you can have a food truck at an event for more than 5 hours, because pretty much every event that happens across the street or at our parks are gonna be more than 5 hours, so. It was referencing something else, but a good idea to clean that up. Thank you, everybody. I think this was very worthwhile conversation. Moved by myself, which is super rare, guys, write that one down. Supported by Bernie to do all those things I just said. Roll call, please, Clerk Schultz.
Dalrymple?
Yes.
Flood?
Yes.
Urbanowski?
Yes.
Barnett?
Yes.
Schultz, yes. Steele?
Yes.
Bernie?
Yes.
Well done.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Williams, Mr. Duke, for
Thank you for your
all your
time.
work on this, yes.
Thank you.
One more item on pending was brought down, a solicitation request for the Seventh-day Adventist Church, page 77, Clerk Schultz.
So basically, the reason this was brought down is, thank you, Kim Urbanowski, for bringing to my attention that the applicant requested to have solicitation hours up until 9 PM. However, my motion is to receive and file the notice and authorize the clerk to complete and return the confirmation notice that's attached. Further request that the organization provide the clerk's office with a list of solicitors and vehicle information when it becomes available. And in addition, that the soliciting hours may take place between 11 a.m. in the forenoon and 1/2 hour before sunset in the evening.
Support.
Supported by Urbanowski. Okay, and thanks for the cleanup on that. Is there any comments or questions? Any public comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That completes the regular business. We have 2 reports. First, our police and fire reports.
I move to receive and file the police and fire report.
Support.
Any comments? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 7-0. One more report. Our January 2022 Building Department report. Mr. Flood.
I would make the motion to receive and file the January 2022 Building Department report with comment.
Support.
Okay, Mr. Flood's moved and supported by Mr. Bernie. Go ahead with your comments.
If you'd like to go through all those permits before you go to bed tonight, that might help you out. But it's really shows that things have not slowed down. Give you a brief overlay. All these permits are every permit that the building department issues. That's electrical, mechanical, the township issues, pardon me. Also, we do the inspections and also for the village of Lake Orion, since they don't have their own building department. And majority of these permits are your Pulte homes that are being built over at Gregory Meadows and also the condominiums on Gregory Meadows. And I noticed a sign on their main entrance on those 103 homes that they're putting in there on Gregory Meadows that they're temporarily sold out. So that's almost built out. And they're putting a ton of the basements in now too for the cottages, which are the condos there on the hill. So to give you a brief update for January, there was a grand total of 336 permits, which brought in $425,000. And the grand total on construction value was $19 million, into my report.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Flood. Comments or questions?
Oh, one more thing, sir.
I'm scrolling through all those pages, but you can look at them later.
If I could make one more
Go
comment.
ahead, of course.
I forgot, and this is really, really good. I'm sorry Dave left. You know, we have a mobile home park in this township over on Brown Road. And our code enforcement has been very diligent on getting those, that community up to date. There are a ton of new permits in here for new manufactured homes going in. That's great. It keeps those property values up and keeps that safe over there. So, that's it.
Thank you. All in favor of receiving and filing the building department report from January, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right. Public comment. Anyone? No one running forward? Board comment. We'll start with Mr. Bernie tonight.
No comments tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Flood.
Real fast, those of you who get the Orion Review, our editor, Jim Newell, had a great article in there last week. It's called, he did an editorial on Sunshine Week. And that is being, showing sunlight and transparency on government. And he gave good kudos to Orion Township, the village, and the school board. Majority of your problem is with your state and national. So I want to make sure our future representative here realizes that. But I also want to give kudos to our township supervisor for putting some transparency and sunlight on our local village DDA. I appreciate that, and I've got a lot of feedback from residents. There's no attack on the village at all. This is not an attack. We believe in transparency in our government, and I expect that of every one of us 7 board members. I expect that of every elected official that represents me, regardless of where they're at. That's my comment.
Thank you, Mr. Flood. Ms. Steele?
Recently, we had a assistant trail manager for the Paint Creek Trail has taken an early retirement, and we have a vacancy available for a part-time trail manager. So if anybody knows anybody, please direct them our way. Thank you.
Penny?
No comments.
Kim?
Roach coach is actually a term of endearment. That's all I want to say. That's it.
Julia?
Nothing tonight, please.
All right, I have a couple things. Yeah, just on the DDA stuff, I did make comments to the DDA, to the Village Council last Monday in support of the DDA. I support our downtown, and I support our amazingly strong downtown and the great work that Downtown Development Authority does on behalf of the village and the township. And it's an interesting conversation. I would just say to stay tuned. It was really neat to see many of the downtown business owners. I know Trustee Dalrymple was there in person as well. I know I think a few of you watched. The township, I think it's about $160,000 a year from our millages. It's captured by the DDA, which, for the record, I support because I see the work that happens as a result of all those dollars, not just from the township millages, but from all the other county millages and other parks and things that get captured in the work that does in the DDA. I think it's a terrible idea to eliminate the DDA, as some of the village council members seem to want to do. So that's my comment on that. I'll share a few events of interest, upcoming events that love for you to mark your calendar and join us for one or all of these. You can have coffee with me. We do this event, we've been doing it for a couple years now. We had to go virtual for a while, but and that is going to be here in this building. It's the 4th Friday of each month at 9:30, and we provide the coffee, so you can come talk about anything you want. You don't have to wait for that event, though, to come talk. You can come anytime and schedule an appointment. You'll hear this for a couple more meetings, but our Orion Veterans Memorial Run Walk, which is going to be a 5-mile or a 5K or virtual. And that's going to be on Memorial Day, and we're going to have some really fun stuff we're working on with the Orion Veterans Memorial coming soon. Our kickball tournament, Kicking for a Cause, it's coming up on May 22nd. We're going to have a lot of fun with this. It's an all-day tournament at Friendship Park. It's going to benefit the Miracle Field and other local charities, and other local municipalities will have teams today, or have teams that day. We shot a fun video today that will maybe air soon. Maybe some people that are up here, you might see on the kickball field. And then last but not least, State of the Township address, we did schedule it for May the 4th.
Nice.
So you catch a theme there? Anybody catch a theme? May the 4th be with you. So that's going to be May the 4th at Woodside Church again, because they are so gracious to host us and they have an awesome venue. We're going to have some fun with our theme this year. And those are my comments. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. It was a very productive meeting and discussion. I'd entertain a motion now to adjourn.
So moved.
It was moved by Steele, supported by Bernie. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? We are adjourned.